everybody. Welcome to Career के किस्से का नया episode with my friend and cousin Hersh, who I've known for a very long time. And I can assure you, इतनी सारी किताबें उसके पीछे जो हैं ये झूठी हैं. अभी इसने इतनी किताबें पढ़ी नहीं है. He's trying to show off as he always does. Hersh, welcome.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Herschel. This is a great, fun thing that we have signed up to do. I'm really excited and looking forward to it. And थोड़ी बहुत किताबें पढ़ी हैं,
मजा आएगा.
not all of them.
हाँ, I'm sure. So, हर्ष हमारे में kind of three questions or three sections है primarily. The first one is about your kind of career and what we've kind of politely titled career का ASL. So, what is your career का ASL?
It's a great question.
Especially.
It's very interesting you asked that, because normally I would have a very straight answer. But very recently, after 14 amazing years at Amazon, I've just wrapped up my journey there, and I'm actually taking a bit of a break till I decide what I want to build next. So instead of jumping from one company to another, which I know happens a lot when people are building their career, I've actually decided to do something maybe a little bit more unconventional, which is take a break. But to give you an answer to the question you asked around what did I really do, 14 years of Amazon, it was incredibly fulfilling, because I started out in retail. I started my career in Seattle. I did 5 years of retail between Seattle at Amazon's headquarters as well as the UK in London, and then did product management for about 3 years in Seattle for a global team. I then moved to India and then did recruiting, and I moved into HR for 3 years, which was a very big shift. And then most recently, the last 3 years, I used to lead the strategy and operations team for the AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, the tech organization globally.
तुमने नौकरी छोड़ दी, तुम्हारे पास कोई प्लान नहीं है कि तुम क्या करने वाले हो, और तुम्हारे घर में कोई प्रेशर भी नहीं हो रहा है. ये क्या है यार? ये तो चीटिंग है.
ये चीटिंग इसलिए है क्योंकि जब 14 साल आप Amazon में कर लो, तो थोड़ी बहुत इक्विटी आपकी घर में भी हो जाती है और एक्सटर्नली भी हो जाती है. सो आई थिंक अभी घर वाले बहुत खुश हैं टू सी मी एट होम एंड टेकिंग दिस टाइम फॉर माई सेल्फ. But I think it's been a very enriching ride, and until you actually come off of the ride, you don't really realize how busy you were and why were you busy. So it's so therefore the parents are very happy about the putting the brakes, because it's also refueling. While a pit stop जिसे कहते हैं, you're taking a break to
हाँ.
to refuel and then ready to go again.
So 14 साल में you obviously did different countries and different roles. What was the best part, the most fun part of it?
So I think the most fun part is the fact that, like, I've had many careers within within a company, within a career. I think the fact that in 14 years, I say 14 years is at Amazon, and it's made me an Amazonian. But I think the fact that millennials don't stay at the same company for this many years, right? And very typically, मैंने भी यही सोचा था that I will of course just do 2-3 years and then hop to the next opportunity. I think the fact that the next amazing opportunity, which always felt out of my reach, it came within Amazon. I think that's one of the reasons I ended up staying at Amazon this long. And I think those opportunities were always far bigger than what I could have thought for myself. So I think, that's one of the things I always say to people, that always aim for something much bigger, which is not in your reach. जो reach में वो तो मिल ही जाता है, थोड़ा बहुत fight मार के. But I think जो बिल्कुल ही out of reach हो, that's what Amazon ended up doing for me. So that's why I ended up staying. And I was in Seattle, I was in London, I was in India, across, so North America, Europe, and APJ, and then global roles. So been very fortunate to have done all of that within one company.
इनमें से एक रोल बताओ जिसमें सबसे ज्यादा मजा आया.
Oh, this is very tough, because सब में कुछ ना कुछ इतना नया सीखने को मिला था. But I will probably pick for now, since you made fun of the books, right? I think I will say the books role in the UK was really fantastic, because it was very different. It's where Amazon started, and it was basically my curiosity that took me to that role. Because again, I always say your first role out of university, you don't ever get to really pick. जो मिलता है आपको करना चाहिए, एंड स्पेशली अगर जो अपॉर्चुनिटी अच्छी है तो आपको करना चाहिए, एंड अगर आपको चूज करने को मिल रहा है देन यू आर वेरी ब्लेस्ड. बट आई थिंक इट वाज माय सेकंड रोल, सो आई हैड ऑलरेडी गॉटन प्रमोटेड वंस, and I realized that I don't want to live a very one-dimensional life, and that's why even at the cost of exiting the headquarters, I thought it was a very good idea to take a bet to go and learn the space which Amazon started in, and why is it still relevant 25 years later, and do it in a place like the UK, where all the publishers were based in London, and it was a very interesting space at the time. This was about a decade ago. So, Kindle was happening. There was lots of, sentiments that publishers had. And I got to know London as as an incredible city, thanks to being out with publishers. And I also learned so much about their business, our own business, thanks to that. But I think that was one of the best experiences personally, very enriching. मजा आ गया करके.
और यूरोप भी काफी पास था, सब घूमने का भी मौका मिलता है, which is always good.
Correct.
So link to that, तब तुमने काफी जगह काम करा. School, university you did in India. I know university you did outside. वहां से कुछ सीखने को मिला that you applied?
So I think, to be honest, I was a little bit of a nerdy sort of a kid till at least class 10. I think I was decently good at grades and all that. And coming from the parents wala pressure that you were talking about, I think as you know, we come from a very academic oriented background. So I think being a nerd was a default setting. I think how you break out from being a nerd is what, you in a way learn. So till 10th, I think I was just that great, proper student who was doing all the things to get proper grades. But I think it was actually through my mom where she felt that I needed to have a lot more extracurricular. And that's when I got into debating, economics, reasoning, rationalizing. And I think that element added a lot to my personality. And I kind of started to discover my own self of, my curiosity and, the questions I had and, not arguing, but like debating points. I found a lot of joy in it. And as a result, 11th and 12th, my grades slipped amazingly well too. But despite that, I was the head boy of my school. And I think it was because they were probably looking for somebody well-rounded. So when I went off to University of Southern California, I applied for a business major. So I did marketing and strategy over the 4 years that I was there. So I would say that for the role I ended up getting at Amazon, probably some parts of it were relevant, but I think it's more the personality piece that I was telling you that, that got developed in maybe grade 11 and 12, that I think those skills make you more, I guess, relevant to a workplace, because workplace won't ask you for theory. And even though, we did some amazing case studies, like we had done some amazing marketing case studies, which give you, the right way to think. But I think the right way to act, you learn only through practical experience. And that's where your character and your, own personality and your skills that make you uniquely you, that really comes out. So I think for me, I would say, to answer your question very specifically, I wouldn't say that nothing I studied was relevant. I think it helped coach me into the person I was becoming. But theory, practical experience always trumps theory.
Fair enough. And घर के बात हो रही है, so most households, especially if they come from an academic background, will put pressure on becoming one of the big three, right? Doctor, lawyer, engineer. वो था नहीं था?
नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं था. And it was very interesting because I have an older brother and he was thinking of doing medicine at the time. And then he decided to shift careers himself. And at that time, I remember telling my father this, that अब आपका एक ही लड़का बचा है, तो अगर मुझसे ये उम्मीद है कि मैं इंजीनियर बन जाऊं तो बता दो. And it was a very distinct conversation that I remember asking, to know in a way, to figure out, are my parents also exactly thinking along the track that you mentioned? And I think they were, I think the academic background or the academic influence से ज़्यादा influence इस बात पे था, या emphasis इस बात पे था, that you should chase excellence. जो भी आप करो, आप उसमें बहुत बेहतरीन काम करके दिखाओ. And that takes a lot of practice and consistency, and again, maybe some ingredients which are very typical to habits, so to speak. So I think the fact that the emphasis was more on chasing excellence than on become X or become Y. It was more like become the best version of yourself in field X. So I think that is where I found a lot more, flexibility, breathing room to say, okay, let's go study. And by the way, I had taken a cinematic arts class. I took a communications class, all of these very offbeat sort of things at USC, even though my core was going to be business and I was going to study all sorts of things in marketing, strategy, finance, and those kind of things.
Nice. Pivot करेंगे towards our second section, which is a simple one for आम बात. So one of the things we always find is कि people do different things and can get very technical, but they're not able to explain it in one common language. So the idea of this section is you explain what you did, and I guess in your case, pick one role or one or two roles using mangoes. So imagine लोग आम खरीदते हैं. Using that analogy. बताओ क्या करते थे? First, tell us which role of the Amazon word that you've done. You're explaining.
Got it. ठीक है, I'll try and explain the work. Okay, I'll try and explain the work that I did as a product manager for Amazon gift cards.
Hmm.
I think that was in consumer payments at Amazon, where I was responsible for new product launches. So if I had to, I guess, look at the analogy of mangoes, like any, we have so many different varieties of mangoes, right? So we used to always in consumer payments, we used to gift cards specifically was a very thoughtless sort of a gift, but it was a very practical one. So think about it as आपको आम खाने का मन है, तो आप आम तो ले आए, लेकिन फ्लेवर या मजा नहीं आया, या फिर टेस्ट टेस्ट कितना उसका मीठा है आम, या कौन से वैरायटी का है. That's basically what I got hired to do during consumer payments and as a product manager, where I had to research so much about understanding two things. One is the purchaser and one is the redeemer. So you're actually catering to two different customers. And then how do you actually sell more gift cards to them? Because when in doubt, get a gift card, right? You can't go wrong with it. But we wanted
Hmm.
to always obsess over customers. We wanted to do something which would change the game, and it would not only result in increased sales and increased, volume of what we do, because everything that Amazon has taught us is about how do you achieve scale and do it
Hmm.
scalably. But I think it required, in a way, like tasting a lot of mangoes and getting a lot of,
आम
like
बहुत खाया तुमने.
आम ही
समझ रहा
बहुत
हूँ.
खाए हैं. आम की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो
आम की बात कर रहे हैं. Correct.
आम ही की बात कर रहे हैं. सो बहुत जब when you go through a lot of mangoes, then you realize कि what are the right ingredients, and I think that's what was the difference, which is flavors of mango, and the flavor that is actually inside a mango was the way, and that turned out to be a lot of different ways in which we started gifting. So we thought about different use cases, and we said, okay, is this a gift on its own? So we'll put a different packaging to it. Is it a gift? Like if you're going to somebody's house, are you taking a bottle of wine, which is say $20 or 20 pounds, and saying, you know what, I want my gift to be 30, so I'll add a 10 pound gift item or a 10 pound gift card. So there were different ways in which we started to
तो
think how
आम
our
की
customers
बातों
buy.
में तुम कह रहे हो कि अगर किसी के घर जाना है तो ए- लंगड़ा लेके जाएं, चौसा लेके जाएं, कि यू नो दूध के साथ कौन सा आम लेके जाएं. दैट्स व्हाट यू वर
करेक्ट.
ट्राइंग.
करेक्ट. इट बिकेम कि आम
ओह.
के साथ और क्या खाएं. तो या तो आप अलग अलग आम ले
हाँ.
जा सकते हो, या फिर आप
हम्म.
आम के साथ उनके कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री चीजें ले जा सकते हो, या फिर आप इंग्रेडिएंट्स ले जाओ जिसमें आम के साथ से दूध के साथ अमरस बन जाए, तो वो डिजर्ट लेके
ओह.
जाओ. सो देर आर सो मेनी वेज mangoes can be consumed, and that's basically what I did with gift cards, which was amazing.
वेरी गुड. ये बहुत अच्छा है. आई एम लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू नाउ ईटिंग
अब
मोर
I have to
मैंगो.
maybe pitch to my friends at Amazon कि एक mango seasoned या mango flavored gift card भी आना चाहिए after this
बनता है.
conversation.
बनता है. बनता है. और वन ऑफ द अदर क्वेश्चंस आई हैव लिंक्ड टू दिस वाज कि अगर ये नहीं कर रहे होते, सो क्या कर रहे होते? लाइक बचपन का सपना टाइप.
So, it was very strange. It's actually strange you asked that, and you'll see it consistently. I think I was the kid who didn't know what he wanted to be when he grows up, because I wanted to try too many things. And I think it's because I'm
हम्म.
inherently very curious as a person. And I, like to learn new things, whether it is like, figuring out how to bake a cake, or whether it's figuring out a new language or a skill, or using a new AI tool. My mind goes in a lot of places, and it's not that I go very deep always, but I think sometimes if something I find interesting, then I go really deep. And that is actually very consistent in the career I've built also. Like Amazon as a company, with the leadership principles, with the way they were grooming me to be an executive, I was a 21-year-old who didn't know what he was doing. And I think I have some idea what I'm doing now, a little bit more than what I did 14 years ago. So I think that theme is actually consistent. So I didn't have, I always felt like as a child that, I want to be a leader. And when I say that, I actually didn't put limits on myself कि मेरे को देश चलाना है या मेरे को कंपनी चलानी है. So I think because of the kind of things I had seen around me, I felt that I had the natural ability to get a group to do things. और से अच्छा ठीक
हम्म.
है, कोई बात नहीं, और कोई नहीं कर रहा है, I'll put my hand up. And I think so. The reason I say I felt that I was born to be a leader and lead people. I think that's what got more refined at Amazon. When I led larger teams and when I managed people, when I promoted people, I found very often that I get a lot of joy in, if I have learned something, I want to share it with others. And I want
हम्म.
to, lead people and learn from them too, by the way, obviously, because that's a huge part of being a leader. So I think the simple answer is that I didn't know other than to lead. I didn't know what else I want to be, and therefore the field was never very clear. So actually, business was a very good accident because it was a very safe bet because it could
Hmm.
have gone many ways. And Amazon again was a very safe place where I went many ways. But I think the part and relating it back to gift
Hmm.
cards, I found that one of the things that I was really interested in, what brought me a lot of joy was actually things that were creative. And I realized that
Hmm.
because I had done strategy and operations and analytics and all of these things, I somewhere subsided a lot of that creativity that I think I had in me. So when I was in gift cards, I got to work with the design team, the user experience team, and I realized,
Hmm.
wow, this doesn't feel like work. Like this is feeling really interesting to see how are consumers preferring A versus B when we did A/B testing. So that's
Hmm.
when, the experimentation of seeing the results after an A/B test, it became a joy as opposed to work. So I used to go into work and I used to read every customer review of the products I had launched. And
Uh,
it was only because I felt like I'm getting to learn what are the customers saying and are they using different words to describe the product than what they were before. So I think I find a lot of fulfillment in that. And that's the part which I think if I wasn't doing all these roles at Amazon, I think I would probably have leaned into being professionally trained on perhaps some level of a creative field.
so now we move on to our last section, which is all about money and pesa. So I guess the first one is we never really talk around pesa and how to manage your money, especially as you start earning your own money. So what sort of, I guess, advice can you give people? What did you do with your first paycheck? ऐसी
Yeah,
कहानियां बताओ.
absolutely. I mean, I think it's interesting because I think, especially in the Indian context, it's crazy how much everything in a way was always about money, ghoom phir ke. And it's
Hmm.
because maybe of, I won't get into the history of everybody and what backgrounds they come from, whatever. But I think the thinking was always ki bachat karo ya bachao, and, you should save. I think the equation with money has been a very interesting one because when you grow up in that mindset where you don't take anything for granted, you can't in a way decide whether you're privileged or and what does that privilege actually, what is the responsibility of that privilege. In my case, I was obviously privileged that I could go to the US for my undergraduate, so obviously that was very different. But I think the fact that I joined Amazon, I think I also should say this, that I probably interviewed through like some 50, 60 firms because of that pressure that I put on myself that there's no way if I have invested this kind of money in undergrad itself, which people usually do for the MBA, that I can go return to India without a job, after
Hmm.
4 years of undergrad. So I think there was clearly a sense of I have to earn. And I think you always strive again for the point around chasing excellence. You strive for the best. So I think there was a part of me which saw the traditional consulting firms or the traditional big firms who have these amazing leadership development programs. When they came on campus and went, and I wasn't selected for various reasons, whether my visa or whether my whatever, I wasn't what they were looking for. I think there was a lot of disappointment, but I think there was a lot of a slight fear which kicked in, which is, oh, now I'll get an average company which will pay average money. So I think
Hmm.
when actually Amazon came through, I was really, overjoyed because it was, one of the best companies even 14 years ago. And obviously it paid really well. But the reason I'm sharing this background and context is because I think it shaped my equation with money further. Because the compensation model itself, even back in the day, was we'd get a good share, maybe about between 50 to 60% at the time in your hand, which was base salary, but the remainder was in shares. So shares was always virtual money, right? So I think that
Hmm.
until it's vested and until it's yours and until you actually sell the shares, it's not really income. It's not hit your bank account.
Hmm.
So I think what that did for me is very early on, as a 21-year-old who was managing his own finances without a lot of guidance or knowledge from, say, the family or from friends or anybody for that matter. And to your point, we don't talk to our friends about the money we
Hmm.
make or कितना बचा रहे हो, कितना नहीं
हाँ.
बच रहा है. If anything, the common thing you hear is मेरे पैसे खत्म होने वाले हैं इस
हाँ.
महीने के,
Correct.
from your friends at that time. So
Yeah.
I didn't ever find myself कि मेरे महीने के पैसे खत्म हो रहे थे, only because I think somewhere one I didn't I didn't splurge. I think I would invest in something interesting from time to time. But the reason I share that this compensation model itself, it got me in that habit ki there's a certain chunk of my paycheck which I don't even see and it's going straight to the bank. And I think that's a very wise thing to do. So if I had to give advice to others, I would say, even if you, regardless of the compensation model you're on, if you just see how much do you really need plus some extra, because you should have fun, but how much can you just put aside and not think it's, it's even hit your bank account kind of thing. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you go find that stash. It's one of those
mm,
mentalities. And the way it worked out for me in terms of those mentalities were, the stock price obviously kept doing well, and that
mm,
stash I had kept aside, I then was wise enough to invest it, for example, not in a depreciating asset like a car, but
mm,
into real estate in the US. And I bought my first home, in my 20s. And it was because, and that also appreciated. So I'm not saying you'll always get it right, but I think I was personally, since you asked me, I've been on that end where I'm used to, parking aside something and forgetting about it, because that's how I know I will not spend it. And
mm,
then further, spend it into something which will ideally be an investment, even though we talked about the household and the background, right? I mean,
mm,
your health and education, these are two things we don't compromise on. This is where we spend. But if it's
mm,
on something material, then that's my secret stash where I say, okay, I want this one nice thing a year and I will
mm.
go and get it for myself. But वो भी आ जाता है in the amount if you plan well.
Fair enough. And what did you do with your first paycheck?
I think the first paycheck was my dad used to send me the ticket to come to India. So my
Mm.
first paycheck was to get myself the ticket to India myself, because I
Ah,
was very
nice.
clear कि घर जाना है दिवाली के लिए.
Mm,
And I wanted to, in a way, wean off and become fully financially independent. So that was really what the first paycheck was kept aside for, which is the ticket to India. And whatever leftover was, honestly, it was just like very some sort of thoughtful gifts for the family, because I
mm.
felt like now I'm an earning member, so I will go home with things that I bought from my money. Even though
Yes.
it's funny, this equation with money, right? Because with Indian parents and Indian context, it's all one. ये सब हमारा है.
Correct.
But
Correct.
the moment you step out of the house and you're not 18,
Yeah.
suddenly you start saying ये मेरा है, मैंने अपने पैसों से खरीदा है. Even though
Mm.
it's all one, right? तो हम ही in a way भूल जाते हैं कि it's all one.
That is true. And final question of this podcast, advice to your younger self.
Oh, this is always a tough one, but I think there will be two things I'll say here. I think one is which I did, and one I think which I think could be done even more. So I think what I did, and I learned this very early on in a place like Amazon, is you should raise your hands for the toughest challenges, toughest questions. It's because उसमें आप बहुत सीखते हो. And I know शुरू में बहुत डर लगता है, and there's hesitation. You're not sure whether it's the right thing to do and whether you should, and you're like, forget it, why get into it? There's a lot of that, or fear of failure for that matter. I think Amazon threw me in the deep end with clearly like some sort of a, like lifeboat in a way, where I felt that I was in the deep end, but I had a float. So
Mm,
that's where I would say that, for my younger self, I would 100% say keep raising your hand for the toughest problems, because there comes a certain point in your career and life where you can't always do that because you've got so much life
mm,
happening to you. So when you can, especially when you're young, go jump in the deep end and somebody will throw a float. So
mm,
that would be one. And the second is, I think we take our careers very seriously. Like if I look back at it, right, like I think if somebody had told my younger self that the same thing, which is take it easy, pace yourself. Like I'll give you a quick story. I was very keen in the typical Indian mindset, right, that I have to get promoted. I
mm,
was obviously from India, so when I reached Amazon, we were, I think, 18 kids who were hired that year from
mm,
universities, and I was the only person from India who was hired. And very quickly, for me, I was like, okay, great, I'm here now. I want to learn skills. I need to get good at this, and I used to take feedback, and it was all about like chop, chop, chop. What do I need to do? Tick which boxes, and I want to get promoted. So I remember some mentors had to actually come and tell me that, look, it's great that you have so much ambition and you have so much energy, but remember you have to take people along with you. And
mm,
that for me was like in a way where the penny dropped, because in India, even whether we like it or not, you're inherently in a society or in a area where, because of how many people there are and how many opportunities there are, you are inherently in a place where you're pushing everyone behind to succeed. And I
mm,
think when the flip was, thrown at me, which is you'll get there, but take everybody forward with you. I learned this when I was 21. So I think this is definitely something which, I would think that I think it's important to pace yourself. I definitely didn't. I was very hungry. I was very ambitious. I felt that no, it has to happen now. Everything needs to happen now. And I think as I've aged and as I've built a longer career, I see a lot of merit in that advice, because I think then you're a lot more mindful, a lot more present. You actually enjoy the process also. And the whole saying, right, about like enjoy the journey, not just the destination. So I think that's probably what I would tell my younger self.
Very good. Hasa karo tho. Very good. I got that. Very good. On that exciting advice, thank you very much. And then I will see you soon, hopefully.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you. Yes, very good. Thank you.